In Adobe Illustrator, not only can you create beautiful vector graphics, but you can also link external images, all right? And the way you do that is by going to File and by placing images. And that can be photographs in JPEG format, in the PSD format, etc. So raster images, basically. And once we've placed those images, we will also see those right here in our links panel. And we see that right here I have two PSD files that are actually linked inside of my document. And when I select one of those images, we have a whole bunch of information up here in the control panel that tells me that this is a linked file. And if I click on it, I can see the other linked files that I have here. I can also click on this hyperlink here and I can relink the image to another one. I can go to the link itself. I can edit the original. In that case, Photoshop would open and I can use Photoshop to edit that image. I can also update the link and I can choose the various placement options that we have in Illustrator. So let me cancel out of that, because the one thing that I want to show you is that the other way that I can have images in Illustrator is also embedding them inside of the document itself. What does that mean? That means that the image file will actually be part of the Adobe Illustrator file, meaning that, of course, the Illustrator file will become a little bit heavier because it contains also all of the pixel data, but it's also a good way to have a self-contained file and not worry about linked files. So to do that, I will simply go here and choose to embed that image inside of the document. There's a bunch of options that I can choose from. I can choose to convert the layers to different objects. I can flatten the image and have that as a single image, and I'm going to say OK to that. And now this image here is actually part of my Adobe Illustrator document. So when I save it and I share it with somebody else, I don't need to worry about sending them the link to the original because it is inside of the document itself. Inside of the links panel, we also notice that we have a little icon that actually signifies that this file, this image file, is embedded inside of that artboard. Now, in the past, it was kind of difficult to unembed images once you had embedded them. In Illustrator CS6, you can now simply select an embedded image and click the Unembed button. And by doing that, what Illustrator will allow you to do is to actually extract that image out of the document and save it somewhere else. So let's say that we're going to rename that file. Let's say that this is now linked. Okay, and we're going to save it in our folder inside of the Adobe Illustrator folder that I have here with this document. So I'm going to save this, and basically what happens is that now we have a link to an external file again. All right, and that will allow me to go to that PSD document, continue working with it, adjusting it, etc. And from an embedded image, we now have again a linked file. So this is pretty cool that you can embed things and unembed things. Another thing that I wanted to point out, and let me just pull out the links panel here for a second, is that we have a whole bunch of information about the links themselves. In earlier versions of Illustrator, when you double-clicked on the link, you actually opened a separate window with some of the metadata of the link. Now, if you double-click on the link, you get all of the information below it. Or you can also choose to click on that little arrow that will actually open the information below. So let me make that slightly bigger, and let's have a look at what actually is shown here. Let me take this image here, and we see that we have the name, the format, the color space of the image, the location where that image actually is. And the really cool thing is that I have this little folder icon, which actually gets me right to the folder where that file is. So basically, this allows me to see exactly where the file is in my Finder. Then we have information about the PPI, the dimension of the file. We also have information about the scaling, the transformations applied to that file itself. So here we see that this image has been reduced to 77%, for example. So all of that interesting information is now available right here inside of the links panel. And by using these little buttons down here, I can move from one link to the other to access their information. All right? So the two things that I wanted to explain here is that now you can have embedded files and unembed them very easily. And also, inside of the links panel itself, you have all of that extra metadata that will allow you to understand better what these images are actually about.